Max Verstappen reveals the impacts Newey had on the car. McLaren is best set for another dominant win, and Renault engineers will be protesting against abandoning their engine project. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. The Queen of Speed has arrived, the track where top speed matters more than anywhere else on the calendar. Monza could be one of the most intriguing races of the season, precisely because the track's unique characteristics might not suit the fastest team on the grid. Let's dive into what Monza has in store, how teams are gearing up for this high-speed challenge, and who the favorites are for this weekend. Monza is the second Italian race of the year, a circuit rich in history and steeped in racing culture. It has been the stage for many iconic moments that have defined Formula One. Known as the fastest track on the calendar, Monza sees average lap speeds soar to around 250 km/h, while the track stretches over 5.8 kilometers, with 53 laps to be raced on Sunday. Long straights and heavy braking zones are Monza's defining features, and because of this, teams will bring low-down-force aerodynamic packages to Italy, focusing on maximizing top speed on the straights. Additionally, brake cooling will be a significant concern as brakes will be under immense stress throughout the weekend. One crucial factor that could determine the winner on Sunday is the strength of the power unit. All teams will undoubtedly strive to extract the maximum performance from their engines, but those who succeed will be able to achieve excellent top speeds with more loaded aerodynamic setups. While downforce is necessary here, particularly for braking stability and cornering, the balance between speed and control will be key. The energy recovery system, ERS, and electric motors will also play a pivotal role, providing an extra boost in speed on the straights. Efficient energy harvesting will lead to fuller batteries during the race, translating into more power when it counts. When it comes to tire wear, Monza is kinder on tires compared to other tracks, and as a result, Pirelli has brought the softest tire compounds, C3, C4, and C5. Another characteristic of Monza is the high level of track evolution. As more rubber from the tires fills in the track's surface imperfections, the circuit will become faster and faster. This will undoubtedly impact race strategy on Sunday and the timing of qualifying laps. McLaren stands out with its more loaded aerodynamic approach. This isn't surprising, considering we've seen this strategy from them before, and they've still managed to maintain good top speeds. This approach suits McLaren's overall aerodynamic design, potentially providing better cornering performance, braking stability, and reduced tire wear. It will be interesting to see if this strategy comes at the cost of top speed on the straights. On the other hand, Ferrari and Alpine have opted for a different approach, with a rear-wing geometry aimed at maximizing straight-line speed. As mentioned, Monza demands high speeds but also braking stability. This means that teams already known for their low drag like Ferrari and Haas will be quick here. Ferrari is expected to perform better at this race than in recent outings. The Italian team started the season strong, but as upgrades were introduced, so too were problems. They've struggled to improve their car, resulting in a growing gap between them and the teams that have succeeded in doing so. Ferrari's main issue seems to be a lack of understanding of their upgrades, hindering further progress. However, Ferrari has announced a significant upgrade package for Monza, their home race. Their car performs much better on low-downforce tracks, as we've seen earlier this season. Therefore, there's good reason to expect a stronger showing from Ferrari. Meanwhile, teams that excel on high-downforce tracks, such as McLaren and Aston Martin, are not as ideally suited to Monza due to their higher drag. Nonetheless, McLaren remains a strong contender for victory. The team has been in excellent form since Miami this year, and after last week's race in the Netherlands, the gap between them and the rest of the field seems bigger than ever. That said, we don't expect a dominant win like last week. Red Bull and Mercedes are likely to adapt well to Monza's characteristics and will certainly be fighting for podium finishes. While Ferrari will introduce upgrades for the SF24 at Monza, Charles Leclerc doubts they can contend for victory in front of the Tifosi. F1 2024 has seen McLaren and Mercedes rise to end the Red Bull dominance, with Ferrari seemingly positioning themselves firmly in that mix after Leclerc's Monaco victory, but the Scuderia has been unable to kick on from there, with upgrades introduced 2 rounds later at the Spanish Grand Prix, proving a setback for the team. The Spanish GP upgrades brought with them porpoising issues for Ferrari, the team since looking to recover ground. The last 2 races have yielded positive signs in that regard, with Leclerc claiming back-to-back P3 finishes at Spa and Zandvoort. However, despite this upturn and the fact that Ferrari will introduce further upgrades for their home race, the Italian GP, Leclerc doubts they can deliver a victory for their expectant tifosi. Asked by media, including PlanetF1.com, in a pre-Italian GP press conference, if those back-to-back podiums give him confidence going into his home race, Leclerc replied, I don't let the last two races change our expectations. We are in a difficult moment for the team. We are struggling a little bit with pace at the moment. I think we understood quite a few things since Zandvoort, especially on what happened on Saturday where our performance was quite far from ideal. But on the Sunday, it was a good race. In Spa, it was good as well. Here, it should be a bit more in the direction of Spa, so hopefully we'll be a bit more in the fight for the podium. However, for the win, I don't think we quite have that yet. I think we are in a better position than on a higher downforce track, so it should be a bit better. How much better, it's still to be seen. While Leclerc was in no mood to discuss in detail how Ferrari hope these Monza upgrades will improve the SF24, he did claim that Monza will not be the best judge of their effectiveness. Let's say that there were very specific characteristics of the car that we had to improve, he said. I'm not going to go too much into details, and this where those upgrades should help us. Then we'll see, because I don't think Monza is the best track to judge those upgrades. Probably Baku or Singapore will be more of a test for us, but it should go in the right direction anyway. But by how much, I don't know yet. Leclerc's teammate Carlos Sainz hopes that these upgrades will make the porpoising problems go away for Ferrari, so that they can return their focus to adding downforce and thus performance to the SF24. Asked by media, including PlanetF1.com, whether Ferrari have needed to run the SF24 in a compromised way ahead of these upgrades to avoid the porpoising, Sainz replied, "Not very compromised, but a little bit. I hope that once we unlock or discover what is the actual thing that is generating this porpoising, which I feel like we are a step behind there in understanding that, hopefully, with this new floor or new upgrades that we will bring soon, these problems go away, and we can just focus in adding downforce to the car. But only the upgrades will tell. If the upgrades do what we expect them to do, it will prove that we understand it. If not, we need to keep digging." Monza has been resurfaced ahead of the 2024 Italian GP staging, so while Ferrari were very good last year here as Sainz made the podium, he warns that a very different Monza will greet the drivers this time around. But, unlike Leclerc, he is not shutting down the idea of fighting for the win. "It's been resurfaced Monza, so we will find a very different Monza to the last few years," said Sainz. "So I think we need to wait and see, but I hope that Monza is one of those weekends where we can get both cars in the podium or in the top 5. And whether we can fight for the win or not, we will see." Max Verstappen doubts Adrian Newey's looming departure from Red Bull has had any impact on the performance of the current RB20. The longtime Red Bull chief technical officer is currently serving a soft gardening leave from the Milton Keynes-based squad, as he has stepped back from Formula One duties to concentrate on the company's RB17 hypercar before a full departure by mid-2025. Speaking to media, including PlanetF1.com, Verstappen addressed the question of whether Newey's step back from the coalface of working on the performance of the current F1 car has had an impact on its competitiveness. The announcement of Newey's departure coincided with the weekend at which Red Bull's dominance of the early part of the season came to an end, with victories proving increasingly difficult to come by in the month since. Verstappen was beaten by 22 seconds at last weekend's Dutch Grand Prix. But the reigning F1 world champion doubts that Newey taking his eye away from the RB20 had made any meaningful difference to the team's competitiveness. "Normally not," he said when asked if Newey's step back is making a difference. "It's just, since it was announced that he was leaving, it's been more difficult. But, it shouldn't matter if someone is, say, leaving and, on the spot, immediately the performance drops, because the car has always been the same. So yeah, normally not." The Dutch driver also confirmed his contact with the 65-year-old has decreased as Newey's involvement does, revealing that the designer has moved offices within the Milton Keynes campus. "Whenever I do see him, we have a good relationship," he said, "so that's never been a problem." As for whether Verstappen has asked Newey to weigh in on the issues with the RB20, he said, "No, and I think it would also be a bit unfair." With the RB20 falling away from the top of the sport, Verstappen reiterated his calls for Red Bull to get to the bottom of the balance issues which have crept in through the car's upgrade path. "We're trying a lot of stuff to try and improve the balance of the car," he said. I wouldn't want to call Zandvoort a wake-up call. It just was not the best weekend for us for different reasons. We couldn't get the car to work how we wanted it. Probably the wind made it very difficult for our car with the balance issues that we have, and yeah, it was just not the strongest weekend. With Red Bull having run their cars in different specifications to evaluate the differences between new and old, Verstappen said it had shed some light on what is going on, but it hadn't unlocked more speed. We had a bit of an idea because of the cars, but it's not like Checo's Perez car was suddenly very fast, right? He said. So we need to find more performance and better balance because we were still complaining about the same balance issues. Some things might not have correlated how we wanted it, but in general, I think we need to fix the general balance of the car, the behavior. This is something that crept in and now we have to try and get rid of it. As for whether the issue is related to setup or the inherent characteristics of the car, Verstappen said, "It's mainly the car, and that's why you're limited with setup to try and prevent it." Given the fact the car was dominant at the start of the season, Verstappen said the fact other teams have developed so strongly negates the possibility of pulling back some of the upgrades introduced to the RB20 in a bid for more speed. "I don't think it will be faster," he said. Other teams, of course, have been upgrading the car really well, so for us to, let's say, downgrade the car for better balance, it's not necessarily faster over a lap. The Formula One circus has arrived in Monza for its annual running of the Italian Grand Prix, and for Lewis Hamilton, this year things feel a little bit different. The Mercedes driver will make his swap to the Ferrari Formula One team next year in 2025, but he's already feeling the love from the tifosi at Monza. The first big move kicking off a chaotic Formula One 2025 silly season began with Lewis Hamilton before any racing actually took place. At the start of the year, Ferrari announced that 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton would join the Scuderia alongside Charles Leclerc in 2025. And ever since, we've watched some massive changes sweep over the grid for next season. Even though he isn't officially racing for Ferrari quite yet, Lewis Hamilton told a pre-race press conference of assembled journalists, including PlanetF1.com, that it feels different coming to Monza this year. "I'm not gonna lie, it definitely does feel a little bit different," he admitted. "I mean, it always feels special when you come here. Coming here at a decent time in terms of the weather's incredible today, and obviously the huge changes they made to the track. But as Charles was saying, there's always such an incredible passion throughout Italy, just in the culture in general, but particularly about racing. And it's always exciting to see the fans that we're going to see throughout the weekend. The passion here, and the excitement that they really bring to this race is not particularly matched in too many places. But for Hamilton, things aren't completely different. After all, he admitted to feeling a warm welcome in Monza no matter who he was racing for. "Over the last few years, I've had a really warm welcome every time, if I'm honest," Hamilton said. "There was one time when we were really fighting against Ferrari. Even then, people were positive. There was never any negativity. I think over the past few years, I've heard Vieni Ferrari, come to Ferrari. I heard that quite a lot, so it'll be interesting to see how that is this year. Already in Imola, for example, I got a really warm reception, and there was this amazing picture of me, Charles Leclerc, and Fred Vasseur as saints." He added that the passion of the Italian fans is a special experience. "When you're on the podium, seeing the tifosi all the way down to turn 1, and then throughout the world, to be honest, is very special," Hamilton said. "Again, I don't know really what to expect, but I'm looking forward to connecting with that community and being on the journey with them as we work towards taking the team forward." Charles Leclerc was asked if he had any advice for his incoming teammate, particularly as it pertains to being a Ferrari driver in home territory. "I don't think Lewis needs any kind of advice," Leclerc began, laughing, "but it's definitely very, very special to be driving for Ferrari in Monza and in Italy. There's something that's iconic, and it's such a special feeling, the amount of support we have. We obviously have it everywhere in the world, but whenever we are in Italy, it's extra special. It's difficult to get in and out of the hotel every morning and every evening, but it's a very special feeling, and we have so much support, so it's motivating us at the maximum." But Lewis will be experiencing that next year, and we'll experience that together, and I'm sure it will be a special year. Practice for the Italian Grand Prix has yet to get underway, but it's certain that Ferrari will be pursuing a home victory at Monza. Yuki Tsunoda will have a key personnel change from the Italian Grand Prix onwards, with internal promotions at VCARB seeing him work with a new race engineer. Having worked with Mattia Spini since the start of his Formula One career, a promotion for Spini will see Ernesto Desiderio step into the breach moving forwards. The V-Carb driver had been hearing the voice of Spinney to guide him through races since his arrival on the Formula One grid in 2021, with his now former engineer having worked with the likes of Pierre Gasly and Daniil Kvyat at Red Bull's sister team in the past. In confirming the news, V-Carb said in a statement, "Congratulations to both Ernesto Desiderio and Mattia Spinney, who are stepping into new roles in the team from the Monza GP. Ernesto will be moving into the role of Yuki Tsunoda's new race engineer, while Mattia has been promoted to a more senior position within the team. Desiderio spent 3 years at Haas, working as a performance engineer with the likes of Romain Grosjean and Nikita Mazepin before heading to Williams to take on the role of race engineer for Nicholas Latifi, with his move to V-Carb following. Desiderio has also published a book, Formula One Race Engineering, Optimizing a Driver's Performance with a Winning Method, featuring a foreword from former Haas driver Grosjean. He said of his former performance engineer, "I have worked with many great engineers throughout my career, but the best ones are those who understand the driver and are able to give him the confidence he needs. Ernesto is one of them. He has given me invaluable support and helped me improve my performances on many occasions." Tsunoda will begin working with his new race engineer this weekend at V-Carb's home race at Monza, with sister team Red Bull also having a temporary race engineer change in Sergio Perez working with Richard Wood, who has stepped in for Hugh Bird while he is away on paternity leave. Alpine say no decision has been made regarding the future of their French operation, as staff look set to protest during the Italian Grand Prix weekend. A group of workers for Renault will strike on Friday ahead of the race in Monza, following a proposed idea to stop production of F1 engines in France. Alpine Racing France employees announced on Thursday that around 100 employees would arrive at the Monza circuit to protest what they say is Alpine's decision to end their F1 activities in France. The team is currently split across 2 locations, one in Enstone, UK, where the chassis is made, and the other in Viry-Châtillon, France, where the engine is made. But with increased talk that the team are considering abandoning their own work project and potentially becoming a customer of Mercedes, staff in Renault will strike in protest at the decision. However, Alpine now claims that no decision has been made regarding the future of the team's operations in France. "We are aware of some activities planned this weekend from staff of Viry," the team said. "We understand from their communication these will be peaceful protests and will not impact team operations. The transformation project is still being evaluated and no decision has been taken yet by Alpine's management. The dialogue, which opened since the project was presented to the Viry employee representatives in July, is important to Alpine's management and will be pursued in the upcoming weeks." The protest will take place at 2 locations on Friday, Monza and Viry. At Monza, there will be 2 groups spread across the grandstand N4 and N24, displaying messages advocating for the retention of a French engine in F1. These supporters will be dressed in a white t-shirt with the Alpine logo, the message "Ciao Viry on track," and a black armband. Staff in the garage will wear a distinctive sign to support the movement. Meanwhile, at Viry, the vast majority of employees will strike, and local politicians have been invited to attend the demonstration. That is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.